Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to Star Wars Lads for today's special review of Tales of the Underworld. We're here to talk about the latest Tales of season that just dropped on Disney Plus on May the 4th. So, May the 4th be with you all. Hopefully, you guys had a great Star Wars day and got to enjoy Tales of the Underworld. These were 6 more episodes, 3 about Asajj Ventress and 3 about Cad Bane. And we are going to talk about both arcs, full spoilers. So, if you've not seen the arcs, make sure you go watch them and then come back and you can join us in our discussion. Before we get started in this video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more content just like this, and comment below. Let us know your favorite episode. Let us know your favorite arc. What was your favorite part of this, and where does this rank amongst the 3 tales of? All right, let's get into the content here, and let's start with the Asajj Ventress because that is the first arc. These episodes take place after the events of Dark Disciple, and we begin with Asajj's resurrection. So, for those of you who were afraid they were going to kind of retcon the end of Dark Disciple, they keep it, but they kind of explain how she's back in a sort of way. You know, it's a brief explanation considering these are short episodes. In this arc, she befriends a Jedi youngling slash Padawan along her journey as she tries to get him to the path that we see in Obi-Wan Kenobi, led by Quinlan Vos, as referenced in Obi-Wan Kenobi as well. And, of course, those of you who read Dark Disciple know Quinlan Vos and Asajj Ventress were lovers prior to her death, but as Mother Talzin says, she's going to lose her heart's desire if she chooses to be resurrected. What that means, we don't really see in this show, but Sanak, after watching these 3 episodes about Asajj Ventress, seeing this whole arc, and obviously the elephant in the room being Dark Disciple and her resurrection and appearance in Bad Batch and all that, what were your thoughts on the Asajj Ventress part of this show?
Well, to go a little broader on that, I think it is interesting knowing that now that we have the context of Bad Batch, Brad Rao, and everyone saying like, "No, guys, like she's here, resurrected, we're respecting it." Like now, I get it, right? So it's nice to have a little bit of clarity there, and it kind of speaks to the point about Star Wars recently that like Hidalgo and a lot of people with Lucasfilm have been saying is like how Star Wars is. Well, we've always known it's a mythology, but now it's like how many different translations can kind of coexist in the same time. Nobody's really reading the same exact version of canon, even if you have every detail in front of you. Seeing how the end of Dark Disciple is almost like it's a poignant, bittersweet, but like a nice, like strong ending for Quinlan, for Obi-Wan, and obviously for Asajj. And at that point, you interpret it as like that's it. That's her conclusion. Now we see this with those same characters, same location, and it comes off as very different. Now we see Asajj Ventress. It's not like a peaceful, like, oh, the embrace of her sisters. No, it's instead her like spirit rushing up when she like regains a form of consciousness through Mother Taliesin, and she immediately is trying to go back to Quinlan. It's very nice to see that these stories still coexist. It can still work, even if you're seeing them at totally different angles. So I thought that was one of the strongest choices Tales made from the start, understanding that these are just gonna be stories that don't have to be the end all be all. I think that was kind of the trap that we fell in with Tales of the Empire, and just with how the Asajj Ventress arc started, I thought that was a fantastic choice, and I thought the whole arc was really good, and knowing the feeling that it's not really trying to define Asajj's life, I thought that's something that even, like, the Barris one, as much as it tried to keep itself on a smaller timeline, it just got stretched too broadly for without enough time to really explain some of her choices, the depth that would need to be involved there, the atmosphere, the ambiance. None of it really felt there. It just felt like, okay, these are just recorded notes from other inquisitors or something. Not the Asajj arc. You don't need to know this, all right? You really can just be watching Clone Wars, Dark Disciple, Bad Batch, and then maybe they have a hidden path show. Seeing the Jedi Youngling and just again the facial animations have improved so much every year. I really do like what Tails is doing with the old Clone Wars style. But the kid Lyko, like I really like the facial animation for him. It's not a character I don't think we would have seen back in like 2012, 2013. It's a lot more closer to like the humans we see in our real world. It doesn't really feel like mannequin characters anymore. So seeing his expression, seeing how he was almost like vaguely more Eastern Asian, Southeast Asian or something, and how it just fit in really nicely with the model of that world, I thought that was really cool. I thought he had the right amount of spunk to him. He wasn't very cringy in a lot of these youngling sort of fashions can be. You got to see Asajj differently. She's not really motherly or anything in the same way she was like in her early bounty hunter days. She's almost like looking for companionship. She knows that like I can't go back to Quinlan. That's the one deal from Talzin resurrecting me. I really liked how they just took her on this path of just kind of threading through her own past, her own healing in a way throughout this whole arc. You get to see her like reflect on different things. You see what like okay, this Jedi past of mine. Like, what does that really mean? And then finally, kind of going full circle and being like, well, how did you first become defined as a separatist? Right? People didn't know you were a Jedi or any sort of special agent or anything. They just thought you're an envoy for Count Dooku and all that. And then she do all her things in Clone Wars. So it was really nice seeing her with the separatist old veteran, and then yeah, maybe the story wasn't the strongest because it was really just kind of like side quest Mandalorian-esque while trying to get to the next stage to the drop off point for the hidden path. But I did like seeing how she kind of like put her own past in front of both Lyco and this guy, and she's like, "Look at what how I've changed. Look how I'm adapting. This is what you got to do. Don't hurt yourself any more than you have to." Right? These weren't always choices that we made, and some of these choices that we thought we made for ourselves, like she brought up with the whole separatist republic, they both lost, right? So kind of just being a survivor, existing, and still leaving the door open for a bigger, grander story where she might eventually understand why she can't be with Quinlan or what would change if she is able to. Yeah, I thought this was fantastic. For I really did enjoy how they handled it, the animation, the shot selection, and the fact that they chose to make all these characters a little bit different than what we knew, but not something that's super essential, just a fun little passing through. I thought they handled it super well.
I really did appreciate the fact that they didn't try to give her a world altering story to explain away her resurrection and explain away why she's back in three, like 12 to 15-minute episodes. That was smart because they've done that too much. It wasn't going to work if you have a completely blank slate for a character after their supposed death and you just explain it all away in three short episodes. So I'm glad they didn't really touch that, but they did start with at least how she got resurrected. And now the rest will come. A lot of people argue with me when I did the reaction to this trailer when I said I don't really like that she's back. And people were like, oh, but at the end of Dark Disciple, it says that she, alludes to the fact she could come back. That was never my problem. It's not the if she could come back, it's should she come back. And I'm still at the point where I don't have anything that's convinced me that she should be back. She doesn't have any juice rich, meaty story yet in her 4 episodes post returning that makes me go, yes, this was it. This is why she has been resurrected. But I'm open and waiting for them to tackle that. I liked the character of Lyco. I thought he was fun, on the edge of being kind of that annoying kid, but with enough heart to where he does a lot of things that redeem him and make him, very likable as a Jedi character. And I thought their odd couple pairing worked. I thought thematically him staying with her made sense, but I was kind of hoping he would move on and it would just be kind of this complete arc for her so she can move on to her next arc and her next piece of her journey. As for the Quinlan element of this arc, I thought that was interesting and exciting. I hope that's not a way to just brush away dealing with it ever again. I hope they come back to it because that's a relationship and a story that really worked for those people who read the book. And I just wanted to see that continue to play out. I remember at the beginning of the episode, he does say something like, I'll love you forever. And then Mother Talzin says she's going to lose her heart's desire. I'm wondering if that's going to kind of play on itself and he's going to forget who she is, or she's going to have to redeem his love, because I think they're setting up maybe that possible angle. As for a story itself, I thought it was a brief but good and fun adventure. I like seeing characters back from Clone Wars like Lots Razi and C-21 Heisinger. It's a story that doesn't necessarily break new ground by any means, but it's a story that I thought was compelling, well written, and written for its length and its size. Compelling enough and gets us back into having her a part of the Star Wars world. And it's a good refresher into who she is and why she does what she does. And I did really appreciate a lot of the Clone Wars connections and a lot of the connections to the Separatists and the post Clone Wars view of the Separatist on the Empire. I thought the way it brought her back into the world and used her as a character who was once on the wrong side, now on the right side, but brings in a little bit of the best of each side, still with her Asajj Ventress swagger and intimidation. All of that played well, and I think it's a good reintroduction to this character. Hopefully, there's more for her in the future. But let's talk about the Cad Bane story. The Cad Bane story, very similar to Dooku, it jumps in time from Cad's earliest days as a street rat all the way to his time as a prolific outlaw. Sonic, looking at this arc, the Cad Bane arc, comparing it kind of to the Ventress arc, as well as some of the other stuff you've seen from the Tales of, how did you enjoy the Cad Bane arc in
Yeah,
particular?
this one is a lot more of a convincing example of what the show can be like when it understands that Tales can kind of be like the old Star Wars Tales comics, like just cool things that you just want to spend a little bit of time on, but maybe not like a whole real animated arc worth like you would see in the Clone Wars or something. This just feels like a good example of like, well, sometimes you can just stick to the basics of taking a cool character that has the aura, that has like the mystery around them, and that is kind of what defines them. And then you can just do like a nice little window peek and understanding of like who they were without saying this is everything, right? And I think this is a good example of like maybe Lucasfilm also starting to learn a little bit more about how they approach their origin angles. When you get to see a character like Cad Bane almost fits into that Han Solo, like, hey, less is more. It's just let them be, let them hold their screen presence. That's all you need from those characters. Just small little peeks into what they are. Here we absolutely get that with Cad Bane because you understand a little bit of like, yeah, he was a street rat. Yeah, this is some of the choices he's making. And this is what ultimately led him into becoming the Cad Bane, right? But at the same time, do I fully understand his psychology? No, I think you see the version that when he's Colby in episode one with Niro, and then, yeah, he doesn't really want to abandon his friend. That's a situation he's been put in. It told a story, it told a tale about Cad Bane, the twists and turns, and it kept it focused on his relationship with his childhood friend. I did like that this window pairs really nicely with what most people probably know him from now, which is Book of Boba Fett. But I don't need this for me to like enjoy a Cad Bane episode. Now I'm just, oh, that's just a cool window. Really well done. It's a tale, and it understood what exactly it was trying to do.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that point. It's the most definitive use of the Tails word, I think, so far. Even more so than Dooku in a lot of ways, because this is a linear progression centered around one common moment and one common set of characters. It's one particular scene at the end of the first episode between Colby and Niro that sets off their diverging directions and paths in life. It's predictable, yes, it is steeped very much so in classic Western cliches, but that's kind of why I loved it. Cad Bane has always been the man with no name, the evil version of a Clint Eastwood. And because of that, he kind of earns an origin story like this. It's almost exactly High Noon, which was a little on the nose for me, if basically copying the plot, but I still really liked it. This was overall a little bit more insightful and a little bit better for the character. It's one of those pieces of information that absolutely enhance the way you see a character. The less is more idea for this story in particular for Cad Bane was the superior way of looking at this story, because Cad Bane is a character that doesn't need this. He's a character that doesn't need an origin story. He's not to say he's one note or not complex, but he's a character who is absolutely steeped in his genre and his inspirations. And so if you're going to be doing an origin story for him, you don't need to fundamentally change the view of the character. It can kind of go in exactly the way you expect, but it can still be compelling and exciting. And with that little tag at the end, the kind of the assumption that Cad Bane has a son, will we ever see that come back in the future? I would like to see it play out. So they've left themselves some room for future story like the Ventress story did, but they also wrapped up and told a complete compelling arc for this character. And so I really did appreciate that about the Cad Bane arc. And I thought Corey Burton did a great job to portraying Cad's evolution in his voice. I thought that was well done as well. So props to him. And the animation, as always, is gorgeous in these shows. And I really liked seeing one that had some of that slowness, a little bit more methodical look to it, that Western vibe. All right, so we're going to give it a score out of 5 and wrap up our review here. Sonic, how would you rate Tales of the Underworld?
Overall, I think this is the most successful iteration of a Tales of show. It understands that, hey, people kind of want to see cool stories with great execution more than definitive explanations and background and histories. I really liked how the Asajj arc went. I felt like it was a very fulfilling interpretation of the end of Dark Disciple into the start of a possible show. The fact that they didn't try to do too much and make this like this is everything that's happened for the next 30 years, key points about our lives. I'm glad. It could end here, and I'd be fine with that character kinda having this peaceful end. I will say, though, Cad Bane Arc absolutely handled itself a lot more closely to the idea of what Tale should be. You get a real strong angle into Cad Bane's origin. Both of the arcs, despite, having some little things here with the restrictions of the runtime, handled supremely well here compared to the first 2 of Tales of the Jedi and Tales of the Empire. So I have to give this a 4 out of 5.
I thought this was a really well done season of Tales. The Asajj Ventress one to me was the simplest. The Cad Bane stuff I thought worked really well. Its time skips were useful and not a hindrance to the show. I thought the way it focused on Colby versus Niro made this story compelling. Overall, a really compelling season of Tales of. I think a significant step up from Tales of the Empire. I'd give this a 3.5. I think it's a really worthy addition to Tales of, something you should absolutely check out if you haven't so far. I'm hoping we get a lot more of these. Give us some twice a year, Lucasfilm. We really want to see more Tales of, and let's keep them going and keep going with some season 2s of some of these series. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let us know what you guys thought of Tales of the Underworld. What would you rate it? How would you rank all the different arcs of the Tales of shows? How would you rank the different seasons of Tales of? Let us know all that in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe to our channel for more content just like this. We're covering Andor, going live every single Tuesday right after the episodes drop. So if you want to join us live, we have Andor predictions out every single week as well as a variety of other great content on our channel like shorts and polls. Thank you so much for watching this video, everybody, and we will see you all next time.